Hello and welcome. This is week 2 of your MOOCs course on intellectual property. I'm Yogesh Pai, Assistant Professor of Law at National Law University, Delhi. I'm your paper coordinator for the subject on intellectual property rights. Now, in this particular week, you are going to study a subset of intellectual property law in terms of international intellectual property and the intellectual property interfaces it shares with other kinds of subjects. One of the first modules in this particular week is going to discuss the international IP regime primarily through the lens of the TRIPS agreement. The TRIPS agreement, as it came into force since 1994, has been one of the most seminal agreements on intellectual property that harmonizes some aspects of international intellectual property law. And since TRIPS, many countries have had to amend her laws and also add in new laws within their jurisdiction. Mr. Pratyush Kumar is going to take you through this particular international IP landscape. The next module is going to discuss intellectual property and its relationship with access. In this access and human rights, in this, Mr. Anand Padmanabhan is going to take you through some of the most trickiest aspects of intellectual property and how it creates or has implications for free speech. In the third module during this week, we are going to discuss the TRIPS agreement and intellectual property and its impact or relationship with access to medicines. In this particular module, I'm going to take you through various dimensions of the TRIPS agreement that has implications for access to medicines. Although the access to medicine debates has sometimes been more polemical than nuanced, we will take you through the most trickiest and most sophisticated arguments that have been placed to provide access to the needy populations in the area of access to medicines. In the fourth module during this week, we are going to study how intellectual property and competition law is linked. In this particular module, Mr. Sai Deepak is going to provide you a kind of conceptual primer of the linkages between intellectual property and competition law. Although it may seem that intellectual property and competition law are opposed to each other and that the twain shall not meet, you will study through the module that intellectual property, although creates legal exclusivity, may not always create economic monopoly. And what does it mean when you say that IP has market power? And we'll study through this fascinating module that intellectual property and the relationship with competition law is much more nuanced than it appears to be. I look forward to seeing you again by the end of the week. Thank you very much.